Taurus, welcome to your weekly Sidereal forecast for August 3rd through the 9th. My name is Athen. So we've got a lot of shifts and changes happening this week. We have 3 planets changing houses and some important aspects. So let's go ahead and have a look here. Right at the beginning of the week, coming out from last week, we had Jupiter squaring up to Saturn, and it's going exact here right at the beginning on Monday. So that being said, this aspect is going on all week, still continuing, and it's about that slow and steady expansion. Hopefully some new opportunities here to help you get really grounded for you in the routine side of things, and then maybe to see some opportunities with your self-expression, with communication, with learning, right? Books, writing, things of that nature. So anyways, you've had Saturn recently last month go into your 6th here, where it's been helping you really get disciplined with that routine, health, diet, right? Getting that stuff in order, because this is it. Saturn will be finishing up this transit of your 6th this month and then going into your 7th. So all that hard work is going to be involved with this 3rd house. So you got a lot of activity here with your rational mind, very practical. Perhaps you guys are very busy right now at the moment too. There's a lot going on mentally, or you're studying, or you're writing, things like this. So that stuff is very expansive. It has been with Jupiter. But now with this, it's, Saturn is saying, okay, great. Jupiter's finishing that transit of your 3rd house. Let's get really disciplined, really serious about whatever this 3rd house stuff is. And then Jupiter will be on his way, shifting into your 4th house actually this week. So that being said, hard work, lots of Saturn aspects. These fast-moving planets, Mercury and Venus, will be going over Jupiter in a 3-way conjunction this week, and then squaring up to Saturn. So big player there, especially with your ruler. So let's start with Monday through Wednesday, your ruler retrograde here. Perhaps you guys have been reflecting on some things, your identity, who you are, your self-image, how you present yourself, maybe redoing that routine and health and stuff as well, since Venus does rule that 6th. And so that reflection, she'll be going over Jupiter. So when she goes over Jupiter, what's happening is she's going into that 3rd house of yours. So there's this definitive shift here this early part of the week, around Tuesday, Wednesday in particular, and it's that there can be some more opportunities, in general for you to expand your horizons, maybe learn more about philosophy, spirituality, astrology, maybe get the routine stuff so that it's really giving you that enjoyment in life. It's all happening in Leo, so there's more of that prana trying to come through into your routine sector. It does take that extra effort, that work, and that discipline, but very, very powerful. Jupiter here, does rule your areas of transformation and of friends and things like that. So maybe you're going to be reacquainted with some friends this week, or re-involved with some of those things. Maybe understanding more about the truth of life, the deeper aspects of life, etc. So that'll be that shift here. And then when Venus goes into your 3rd, perhaps reflecting on how you're communicating again. There's a lot of energy here. How you're thinking about things. Your ruler is usually the strongest mover. Wherever your ruler is, that's the strongest emphasis. So it has been about home and family and past and roots and things like that. But now this week going into the 3rd house, which is much more of the busier, practical, rational, communicative side of things, correspondence, maybe even getting involved with your siblings in some way, reestablishing connections with them. These are the kind of things to reconsider and think about during this time. So that being said, still some opportunities with these things. Maybe it's a good time to start a course, to read a book, write a book, things like that, because that's been Jupiter, and these two can certainly activate that. So that's this Wednesday time period, and do stay very grounded with that, as I'm going to continue to say, because this whole position is squaring up from Saturn. So the groundedness is coming through that routine, or your work, or your day-to-day activities in some way, or your service, your crafts, whatever it is you've been working hard at here. Now when Mercury joins the mix, this will be a little bit later, about the mid to later part of the week, up and through Thursday. So this stellium, this 3-way conjunction here between these other 2 planets, Mercury is the very practical, very rational side of things. So here you have a good capacity this week to understand more about yourself, your goals, your drives, those things you're reflecting on, to understand how your routine is more important, how you can really put that on a practical level. And then in terms of Jupiter, understand more about friends, groups, your enjoyment in work, expansion, possibilities, in life, especially about those deeper, piercing the veil of what's really going on in the world, and opening and being more transparent with your relationships. A lot of areas are being involved here, but with Mercury, it's all about seeing the truth. And with Saturn, it's seeing the real truth. Just be careful not to get into any pessimistic thinking. This might be the case for all of us, regardless of our sign, because of this aspect. But that's not making it too personal. Just be sure you're seeing things for how they are, how they really are, without making it so real that it's just focusing on the negative, if you will, or it becomes not real, kind of loops back around. So that being said, as long as you are seeing things clearly, rationally grounded, you can understand a whole lot more about these different areas of your life, maybe even more about home and family, which is where Jupiter is going to now be transitioning for the next year. So you got possibilities here around anything relating to that. If you're thinking about moving, renovating, getting in contact with family, learning more about your lineage, things like this, especially when it's done through abroad matters, which is Jupiter, a very good energy to work with for a year there with that. So three-way, Mercury can help you understand a lot more in general about those things as well. So here's what's going on about midweek to Friday. So this later part of the week as well. Mars is trining up to the Saturn. So your guys' energy levels, they're kind of getting a little bit lower, but it's interesting because with a trine from Saturn, anything that you're thinking about long term, you're thinking about in the future, this is the kind of motivation, the kind of goals you really want to set with yourself, especially when it comes to relationships. Okay, all this stuff can go quite nicely. Mars does rule that 7th house, so a trine from Saturn means you can be very disciplined, very structured with relationships, with spirituality, with your alone time. Very real about that, about rest and relaxation and not overdoing it. So all of that is supporting you, and that can be motivating you quite heavily. Now, your motivation has been in your 2nd house, which has been about the resource side of things, but now Mars is going to be transitioning into that 3rd here around that Friday time period. So here with Mars in your 3rd house now for about the next 2 months is going to be very direct, very assertive with your communications, right? And really taking whatever actions are necessary to take that course, to write that book, to communicate, to journal, whatever it is that you're involved with. And that's the best way to work with the Mars, because then Mars has an outlet, because it's not the best house for Mars. Mars prefers to be up here in the 1st house. There's a lot of, fire. Here, he's not in the best sign placement, and he's in this airy kind of an energy here, which is the 3rd house of communication. So if you're feeling like a restlessness or something like that, make sure you're exercising. This has been the case for us already, all of us, with Mars in Gemini, but now it becomes a little bit more personal. So the best way to work with it is to set intentions, put energy, especially when they're long-term, relating to anything about communications, learning, reading, writing, maybe even teaching perhaps. So some things to consider with that as well. All right, so I just want to make sure I've covered everything. There's no major aspects over the weekend, but that's the shifts and changes. Definitely changes involving this 3rd and 4th house, which really are the foundations of life. This is your mind, your concepts. This is the rational foundations, and the 4th house is your emotional foundations. And now with Mercury going in here, you guys can learn a whole lot more about home, family, emotions, your sentiments, things like that. All right, Taurus, so have a nice week. Thank you again for all of your support. If you'd like a personal session, click the link down below, and I'll talk to you all next time. Take care.